Bases drop for Tuesday Thoughts here on the SDH Network and the Soccer Down Here morning show. John here, you there. A lot to talk about this morning. It's kind of a newsy Tuesday. We've got the stuff that happened yesterday in the tournaments, and we've got the stuff going on today to preview when it comes to the tournaments. And it looks like one particular country might be in for a bit of a rude awakening, or at least an awakening when it comes to the competition that they're currently in. We'll go over the quotes and get you ready for the matchups for today, go over juice boxes, all that kind of stuff. Yes, there are rumors out there. We'll address that and we'll let you know where that stands. And we've got Major League Soccer news out of Charlotte. We've got a wild day yesterday in the NWSL. Morning, Alex. They're just wild on a couple of different fronts involving two teams on the West Coast. And we'll go over that news as well. And we'll go over what happened in Major League Soccer on the weekend. We talked a lot about Atlanta United yesterday with the matchup with St. Louis, Abe Gordon dropping by and being a part of the conversation. We got into our call of the year from a center ref and what he got to do through VAR. I think Philip Dujic gets the Promo of the Year award so far when it comes to officials in Major League Soccer. So we'll go over the rest of what happened in Major League Soccer on the weekend. It resulted in news out of San Jose yesterday afternoon. As we were positing when we saw the news that came out of Kansas City, we were wondering what was going on in San Jose. And we now have answers what's going on out of San Jose. So news out of San Jose, news off the field in Charlotte. And so we've got a bunch of stuff to get into this morning. Morning, Tom. We'll get into all of it and whatever else is on your collective minds as well. But time for opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are consuming us however you wish to consume us this morning, whether it's on the YouTubes, it's on the Twitch, or on the 280-character app. You hit that QR code, you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 when you're checking out. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%. Reinvested in youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Kind of two-born. It's twofold when it comes to our kickoff this morning. And it has to do with that right there. But not necessarily, yes, Tom, we'll be getting into, yes, Forza Italia. We'll be getting into that. So we'll be getting into that and a bunch of other things. For those of you that haven't, buy the jersey. This is from our friends at the Marshall Islands. For those of you that are watching on the video side of things, don't forget you can also pick up the scarf that we have produced to help out the Marshall Islands and their soccer federation. It's the last country on the planet that has put together a national soccer program. And if you follow them on social media, which you should, at SoccerFedMI on the 280-character app, we got news this morning from them that they've got their first match in July, apparently. And we WhatsApped. I guess that's the thing to do now when you're talking to folks overseas. We WhatsApped with the technical director, Lloyd Hours, after the announcement was made on social media and told him when you want to break the news, we'll break the news. But keep an eye on all their social media. Next month, they're going to have their inaugural match as a football federation. And so very, very cool stuff as they continue to grow. Once again, remember, you can go to their website, buy the gear. It helps fund them on a grassroots level. Buy the scarf. It helps fund them on a grassroots level. And you get to see part of Maddie's internship when she was an intern here at SDH. You get to see her modeling our scarf and everything. So we are helping out the Marshall Islands and got the announcement this morning that they have their first match lined up. Still trying to track down and Katie Smith, their new women's coach, is in transit going from one side of the planet to the other. So when things calm down for coach, we'll catch up with her, find out what's going on the women's side of things. But First match on the board for our friends at the Marshall Islands, and we'll let you know when we know more. And we rolled out the golden ticket for Lloyd Hours, the technical director, and everybody else there about when you want to make the announcement, let us know. Yet, Tom, there is Everton news, and so it's really cool to see these things continue to grow and evolve with our friends from the Marshall Islands. But just to give you a heads up, follow them on social media if you don't already. And when they make the announcement of that first ever, we'll let you know what's going on. But, yeah, we saw that this morning when we were getting up and around, and we're like, oh, let's see if we can find out what we can find out. And so what we found out is that it's going to be next month, and we'll find out what's going on as they get all of their details squared away. So it's going to be very, very cool. Marshall Islands continuing to grow, and congratulations to them for having the announcement of their first ever. You never have. There are all these first evers that they're having as a federation, so it's very, very cool to see this first ever come by and see what's going to go on from here with the Marshall Island Soccer Federation. So once again, SoccerFed MI on the 280-character app, and follow along as their adventure continues as they're building their program. But, yeah, their first ever match next month. So very, very cool stuff to hear from them. Once again, you can download their app. They've got an app they've got an app for your phone if you want to do that, or just go to their website, buy the gear. Like I said, it helps fund everything. Buy the scarf. If you want to buy the scarf on this side of the Atlantic, you can. And I've got them. I still have them here. Like I said, I've been shipping to California, Colorado, Texas, Florida, on here in Georgia, all points in between. You want to pick up a scarf to help out the Marshall Islands, it's $32. You can have the Abstermobile deliver it to you, or I can deliver it to you if I see you on a match day, like we did when I dropped 4 off in Kennesaw. And once again, you can do things that way. It's $32 if you want to do it locally. If you want me to ship it, it's $32 plus $5 to help out the Marshall Islands. So once again, $32 if you see us in person in any way, $37 if you want it shipped in any way, and we'll figure it all out. So once again, you get to help out the Marshall Islands and help build their program from scratch and help them with all of the things that are kind of cool about seeing something go from the ground up. So once again, scarves here at SDH, $32 or $32 plus $5 if you want it shipped. Jerseys are on the website, and download the app because I've got it on my Android phone. I can keep an eye on things, and you get to see Maddie's face because she was the one that started the whole thing when it came to modeling things on international levels. How many folks can sit there and say that as a part of their internship, they were a model for an international soccer marketing program? I believe 0, short of Maddie Cruz. So it was 0 before Maddie Cruz, and now the answer is 1. So congratulations to the Marshall Islands and our friends there as they have continued to grow. And this is the next step in that with that first ever match. And so when we know more, we'll let you know more. But they teased it this morning on social media, and they let us know what the heck is going on. All right, that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching live on the YouTubes, on the Twitch, or on the 280-character app. And you hit that QR code, and what you can do is go to Kickoff Coffee, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And you see me kind of hiding our other QR code because I didn't want to confuse our Alliance Nurse Corps QR code with our QR code from Kickoff Coffee. Once again, you're looking for your next nursing gig, over 30 years of experience from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. You hit the QR code here. When they ask how you heard about them, you sit there and you go, SDH. SDH, man, it ain't hard. Soccer Down Here was how it happened for me. If you want to go down the road of pursuing a noble career and that of a nurse. So Alliance Nurse Corps, proud sponsors of everything here at SDH as well. All right. Yesterday, late night. Sometimes news comes at you in news dump territory. Sometimes news dumps happen, middle of the afternoon. Sometimes it's just kind of like, just kind of hide onto it a little bit. So last night, 11:30, Cesar Luis Merlo, once again, Class A source. This is one of your A-listers. He is advancing the story involving Thiago Almada. Google translated. verbal agreement to transfer Thiago Almada to the Eagle Football Group for a figure close to US $20 million. Parties already working on the operation documents. The plan is to first pass through Botafogo and then make the jump to Europe. So that is where Cesar Luis Merlo has it reported this morning, late night last night, as we were all watching the Stanley Cup final and trying to recover from what happened with Brazil and Costa Rica. We'll get into Copa coming up in just a little bit. But Cesar Luis Merlo reporting Atlanta United reached a verbal to transfer Thiago to Eagle Football Group. And remember, multi-club model. Parties already working on the operation documents, plans to first pass through Botafogo in Brazil, then make the jump to Europe. And that can be done in a couple of different ways. You've got, and we talked about it yesterday, that there are certain windows that are already open. The England window is open. France's window is a month. Well, technically, 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. So 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 31, a week. So you've got a week with the opening of the French window. So you've got the ideas that are attached to all of this. And Alex, I did not see the John Texter video, so let everybody share what happened with Texter, because I was kind of locked into the Stanley Cup Game 7 last night. Remember, it's not what they say, it's what they don't say when it comes to these kinds of situations. So the windows that are available. Let me check the Brazil transfer window, and we can see when that kicks in. Summer transfer windows. And we will go to federations, and we will do it that way. So if, let's just say, wanted to go to Brazil, it's July 10. Chile's window's open, by the way, already. Thank you, Alex. And Alex getting producer credit this morning with the John Texter video that's attached. But let's say July 10, 15 days, France, a week, and England's already open. So if these are the three clubs that are being mentioned involving Thiago Almada, Texter personally denying the Merlo story, saying the offer is going to be sent this morning. Okay. So literally as of 8:29 this morning. So John Texter personally denying Merlo, saying the offer is going to be sent this morning. So there you go. So you got that going on. So now that we have the story being advanced by John Texter himself. Now, Cesar Luis Merlo was wrong. We're doing it this morning. Tiago Franklin on YouTube. So, but you know, as an owner, there are times when you want to sit there and you want to get out in front of a story. And so you got that. Well done. It's like, no, you're not breaking the story. I'm breaking the story. So it's that morning, OG. So we'll see once again with Thiago Almada. It's in the 20 region. But John Texter wanted to get out in front of the entire story. But what this does with these differing windows is it gives you a couple of different options. If you want to send him, if the deal gets done, you want to get it done, you want to have him in your umbrella, then he signs with Eagle Football Group and you send him to Crystal Palace. If you don't quite think the deal is done and you want a little bit of a runway, then if it's July 1st, the wording is that he goes to Lyon, or if you still need to get things done, then you can go to Brazil and it be Botafogo. But any of this wording, it looks like Thiago gets loaned to Botafogo, and then he heads to Lyon, and possibly the end game being Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, and remember that Texter has been wanting to divest himself of Crystal Palace and wants to take, he wants to take full advantage of the Everton situation. He wants to go that direction. So literally this could be Eagle Football Group. It could be Crystal Palace loaned to Botafogo. It could be Lyon loaned to Botafogo. Depending on when or if this does go down, it could be straight to Botafogo and then sent to the other side of the planet, the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. And so, I mean, legitimately, the resident Evertonians that we have here on the show, the Friedkin deal's basically done. Okay, so the Friedkin, I'm sure that Nick will have comments on Friedkin. But so either way, the Premier League is in play to a certain degree. So with Eagle Football Group having all these different tentacles in the world football sphere, do not be surprised if you end up with wording going one way or the other that lays it out as loaned to X, but will start at Botafogo before everything circles back around. How Thiago will fit at Crystal Palace over time, don't know. But I think that Lyon would be an interesting test case just to see how things continue to grow in his career. Yeah. Michael says if the price is 20 after the MLS cut is taken, we make what, 2, maybe 4? No, it's more than that. I think the way that it works is you recoup all of your investment. Let's go over these rules again. And I want to go over this because when Yorgos Akamakis was flipped, Atlanta United ended up doubling their investment. But no, I don't want subsidies and compliance. I want what MLS's percentages are. Let me see here. Transfer windows, transfer deadline preview. Let's see. How do transfers work? Let me see if we can get, because I want the wording to be correct here. I don't want roster slots. I don't want that information. I don't want allocation order. Free agency, transfer windows, ITCs, roster compliance and freeze, allocations, designated players. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing the proper search terms or what. But when it comes to, let's see, deadline previews, like I said, and this will be one where we workshop it. If anybody can find the information, and let's see, MLS percentage on transfers. I think it was the way that it works is you get to recoup all of your investment. Then it ends up, okay, so here's how this plays. Not expected goals models, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so this is old, but I think that it's in the same ballpark. Any amount of transfer fee, only able to increase your cap space by about $650,000 in cash in AM. If a DP is transferred or loaned, and I imagine that the same would apply for a young DP. Club receives all amount of the transfer or loan fee revenue until it has recouped all of the out-of-pocket cash payments made by the club in connection to that player prior to any sharing arrangement with the league. So going back to the Miguel Almiron numbers. If Atlanta sold Miguel for 24, They'd get everything that they'd spent on him in transfer fees and wages. You get 100% of that back. Then, of the remaining money, so whatever you've spent, transfer fee, wages, you get that back off the top. Then MLS gets a third of the balance, and then Atlanta United gets the rest. So it's whatever you've invested in Thiago, you recoup that. The balance, MLS gets about a third, and then Atlanta United gets the rest. And you also get the additional AM and those kinds of things. So 16 million transfer, another 3 in salary to date. If Alex's math, so 16 million transfer and another 3 in salary to date, that sounds like the amount that gets recouped. So you're looking at Atlanta recouping their investment, and Major League Soccer not getting much of nothing. So Thiago, let me see, what did we get from Thiago Almada when he was brought in? Everybody's like, yeah, the days are numbered. Thiago Almada transfer. So everybody's like, it was 14 million euro. So highest market value and current market value is 27 million euro. So the fee, 14.5 million euro from Vela Sarsfield. So if it's 20 plus whatever you've done in salary, you're getting all of that back. Yeah. So Transfermarkt had the transfer at 14.55 million euro. So somewhere close. And so then you end up with the salary figures, what he's made in salary since he's been here. So this sounds like it ends up you're recouping your investment and maybe getting a little bit off the top. Yeah, and those were the old rules that I was quoting. So you get your 20 million, if you get your 20 million back. And so that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like with the heavyweight. So I think that's what the number is, but you're still getting the money back that you invested in the first place on the transfer, plus the salary that you've invested in him. So basically it would be 14 to purchase him, 20 to let him go, and you paid him whatever you paid him in salary. So the investment looks like it's break even, but the transfer number increased from 14.5 to 20 or whatever is north of 20. And we still don't know if Atlanta United is going to be getting any kind of a piece of the action or something like that. So that's where we stand looking at things when it comes to transfer use. Admittedly, these are the old transfer rules, but to give us a ballpark as to what we're staring at here when it comes to Thiago Almada. So looks like Atlanta United is going to be getting their initial investment plus whatever salary they paid. Then the old rules were MLS would get a third of the balance. Atlanta United gets the rest. So it looks like Atlanta United is going to end up getting most, if not all, of their investment in Thiago Almada in both salary and in transfer fee back if this is a $20 million deal. So that's where we're at. But yeah, and Tom, I think that Tom is right on here. If it's 20, then I think that Tom is spot on with this idea that to think that you're getting a significant percentage of the pass to get that figure. Because if you're looking at values at, say, 25 to 27, then what's 5 over 20? A quarter? So you're probably getting to right now, Michael, I think you're close. Right now, you're getting him for 3 years for free. But remember, I think that Tom has a solid point here. If it's just 20, considering the ideas of 25, keep an eye on the percentage of the pass. My guess is if it's 20, it's a significant percentage of the pass going forward for Atlanta United. I would say 20, 25%, somewhere in there. And what that continues to do is that once Eagle Football Group decides to move Thiago on and he goes to his next destination, and he's probably got 2 contracts left in him, 2 if not 3, that Atlanta United gets a significant percentage of the pass. I would be surprised. If there was not a percentage of the pass. So my guess is that if it's 20, it's probably 25% of the pass. The further away from 20, the more north you get, less and less of the pass. But I think that this is a key point here by Tom. If it's closer to 20, I'm anticipating a significant percentage of the pass to go along with it. The closer you get to 25, the less of the pass I would anticipate. And that continues to make money for Atlanta United down the road, down the road, and down the road. So that is smart business in this aspect. Keep an eye on the percentage of the pass. John Texter saying what John Texter said this morning. And we'll see if we can turn that sound. But intriguing nonetheless. So John Texter, no. Denying the Merla story. Offers being sent today. Thank you, Rich. And Rich wishing a belated happy birthday. But, yeah, what we're trying to do when it comes to the birthday stuff, for those of you that missed it yesterday, the boss kind of made it impossible for me to wander in. And so I'm going to see how long the helium lasts with all of the balloons. So you'll see this stuff up all week, but I want to see how long it takes for the helium to start to fade in the balloons here in the office. So that's what we're staring at. Michael, no, nothing wrong with this. If Eagle moves him just within their group, would that be considered a pass? Let me see how it was considered with Tati Castellanos when he went to Girona. Because if you end up with a different number, so I want to see the it was a loan to Girona before he was moved to Lazio. So basically, when you're being loaned inside Eagle Football Group, so Castellanos was a part of City Football Group and loaned to Girona and then flipped to Lazio. So basically, it's a loan. If you're being shifted from one place to another, it's not a pass, it's a loan. Unless there is a financial element in the loan, then you're just sliding folks over. But if there is a loan and a loan fee, then I would anticipate that loan fee would be a part of the discussion. If you're just moving him over, it's just like you're shifting your asset from one to the other, then I would say no. But if there is a loan fee, then I would think that would be a part of the discussion as well. But then once again, you had Castellanos moving from Girona, and he was shifted to his next destination in Lazio. That transaction was outside of the family. And so then you had City Football Group with NYC getting a piece of that particular element, I would imagine. So when Eagle decides to move, if they move him outside the family, yes. And Alex, once again, true, being an absolute lawyer in this situation. With transfer contracts, I'm sure that wording is in there too. It's like, okay, well, if there is a deal involving X, Y, or Z, if a fee is involved, then that should be considered a part of the pass. And this is where lawyers get their billable hours, and this is where they earn their keep. So the Lazio element in this, Castellanos goes outside the family, NYC gets a piece of the cut. I would not, if you're sliding an asset, then once again, that's the wording in the contract. Yes, and trading solidarity payments for the first clubs. True, yes. And that goes all the way down the line. So this is where billable hours come in handy, is keeping an eye on the wording of a deal, what constitutes a pass, is a loan fee a part of it, what's the percentage, does that work? If it's not, then do we get extra? Yes, Alex, very, very good. Alex did stay at a Holiday Inn last night, apparently, so he's helping us out with all the legalese this morning. So, but I mean, what you've done is you've increased in your transfer from 14.5 to say 20 with a percentage of the pass. And for someone who is who's Thiago's age, who you anticipate with 2, possibly 3 more contracts, that could be a very nice windfall for Atlanta United down the line. So once again, keep an eye on all of this stuff as we go, and we will continue to keep an eye on the possible movement of Thiago Almada. But once again, what this has done is given you basically $30 million, you recoup your 4, then you end up with doubling your investment of 8. So basically $28 million you will have recouped in these 2 transactions. And by the way, it took Yorgos Giacomakis a full week to quell our national emergency of him saying something on social media. $28 million involving DP slots. How do you pursue it? How do you fill them? That's the big question. So that's what you're staring at. You got 28 million now. You would have 28 million in the kitty out of the blocks to help you fill those slots. How do you fill those slots? That would be the larger question in all of this. So $28 million if these 2 go forward. Well, the one has already gone forward, but you end up with another. Yeah, you end up with another 20 million with Thiago Almada. So 20% plus for Miguel Almiron. And so that's what I think that might be the going rate per se. You might end up with, say, 20 and 20%. Miggy, you ended up with a high sell-on fee as well. And so that's what you're staring at when it comes to Thiago Almada this morning. So news breaking at 11:30 last night. News breaking in turn at 8:30 this morning. Thank you, Alex. John Texter denied what Cesar Luis Merlo says, but saying the offer was going to be sent this morning. And this morning, as of 8:29 a.m. So that's where we are. So Tiago Franklin, who is keeping an eye on things, was the one who had it laid out this morning with the John Texter element of all of this. So we'll see what's up. And apparently there are issues with Botafogo that we kind of need to keep an eye on, according to Mateus Mandi. And so they have to come up with some. You have to come up with some deposits, including January and February of 23 installments, because apparently they'd had money seized in other lawsuits back a year ago. So how are they financially from here? That would be an interesting question for all of the rest of us. So we'll keep an eye on Because you remember John Textor, he wanted to sell. He wanted to sell Botafogo at one point. But we'll see what's going on if they are any more stable in the last, say, 12 to 14 months than they were back in January 23. This right now, Abby, no, it is not. But when John Textor, he hasn't been sold, but yes, Alex has it correct. More than speculation, nothing signed. 8:30 this morning, 11:30 last night. Cesar Luis Merlo said that there was, a verbal in place for $20 million for Thiago. No mention of the percentage of the pass. Then Alex, doing tremendous producer work this morning, had John Textor saying at 8:30 this morning, John Textor being the owner of Eagle Football Group, that the Cesar Luis Merlo story is incorrect. We're doing the offer this morning. And so Tom coming in and saying that Doug Robertson of the AJC, as of today, June 25, there remains no contact between Atlanta United and Eagle Group since January. Don't know from where the reports of a $20 million agreement are coming, but from as of today, it's not accurate. 28 minutes later, John Textor, the owner of Eagle Football Group, says, no, we're sending the offer today. So, maybe somewhere in the in-betweens, but you can also parse the language as we do, where if you have someone saying that I haven't had contact, it's like in college football. And it's like in college football where you have a coach who happens to have a mega agent sit there and go, I have not had contact with school X. I'm happy with my employment here. That says nothing about the conversations that agents have had with any kind of conversation. So what I always do in any kind of contract or player or coach contract discussion, read what's not being said as much as what is being said, if that makes any sense. So if someone says, I have not had contact with X, that opens the door for asking, okay, well then if you haven't, who has or who could? So this is part of the processing of all of this information. And Garth Lagerwey went on with Mike and Jason on the weekend and was discussing the situation. But just because someone doesn't have a conversation with another entity doesn't mean that other individuals associated with those conversations have not. I think that's a triple negative. But just keep an eye out for what isn't being said in as much as what is being said. And when John Textor, the owner of Eagle Football Group, goes on Twitter and basically says what's going on, then, So up until 11:30 last night when Cesar Luis Merlo said that there's a verbal in place, and then John Textor, the head of the of Eagle Football Group, says, not so fast, my friend, but we're doing it today, then I think that we can readily assume that pace is quickening when it comes to John Textor and Eagle Football Group and offers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, John Textor, head of Eagle Football Group, personally denied the Merlo story that came out at 11:30 last night. That's saying the offer was going to be sent this morning. So that's where we are with Thiago Almada, at least from the gentleman himself, John Textor, the head of Eagle Football Group. That's where we are. So keep an eye on it. And Alex is saying, reminding if I don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So once again, it's just as important with who isn't saying anything or who hasn't been contacted. Just because I haven't been contacted doesn't mean somebody else hasn't. So once again, parsing the language. We see it in college football a lot. And I've learned to take my college football acumen and somewhat apply it to what we're seeing here. So that's the latest on Thiago Almada. And like I said, this would give Atlanta United in the neighborhood of $28 million to determine how you want to fill your DP slots. And there were names that were mentioned in French circles once again. Atlanta United traveling into the Ligue 1 market, trying to track down strikers and such. But we'll see where that information goes and see how it lays itself out. But remember, once again, you're talking another couple of weeks before the Major League Soccer summer window opens. And I'm just going to say it right now. Be prepared, and not just with Atlanta United, say, but in the world in and of itself of Major League Soccer. This window has all the makings of absolute chaos. All the makings of absolute chaos. Atlanta United, like we said, we got 28. You would have $28 million ish to work forward with to fill 2 DP slots. That's just Atlanta United. Who else wants to spend? Who else wants to sit there and dive into the deep end of the pool in the summer window to try to make a push? We always see that in other leagues when it comes to the trade deadline. Who's going to make a move to try to get that extra guy? Who's going to try to figure out what they need to do to bolster their roster? Florida Panthers picked up Kyle Oposo at the deadline. Oposo was there for 3.5 months. He was integral to helping them get a Stanley Cup win last night. 3.5-month pickup. We got him a Stanley Cup. But it's, who wants to dive in and see what they can do in these windows? By the way, the Panthers about $20 million under the cap for next year. But keep an eye out on, and this is, once again, we always say this, keep an eye on your sourcing. When a guy like Cesar Luis Merlo talks, you got to listen. When a guy that's got 1,440 followers, not so much. But he might be attached to something to keep an eye on, and he might be, getting lightning in a bottle. We don't know. But this summer window has the opportunity to be chaotic across Major League Soccer. So keep an eye on it. But it looks like John Texter's not messing around, and it looks like the offer will be made today, as he said himself this morning. Michael doesn't want to rush into DP signings, especially with an interim coach. DP is too critical for a club's future success. And you're going to be prudent in these situations. I think that you're going to have folks that are invested in a philosophy, invested in a way of moving and going forward when it comes to what you're seeing on the field. Are you interested in being a part of the build? I think that's the main questions here. But we'll see what the signings look like. Because, remember last year, your signings at the window, it was you're signing Saba and you're signing you're signing players that are going to help you and help you make a push. So we'll see what markets you can go into and look for distressed assets, which is very, very smart businessman behaviors. You're looking for distressed assets, and you're looking for situations where you can help yourself and look at a club that really might need some financial assistance, and you see an asset that you have that can help you. So look for distressed assets. You found them in Ligue 1, Ligue 2, and in the Turkish league. So just keep an eye on it. But this window has the chance of being chaotic across the board in Major League Soccer. Rich says he knows the union won't make any moves during the window. Is Jim Curtin to the point to where he calls his own shot? Because I imagine that you're very, very frustrated with Jim Curtin. I imagine he's earned enough emotional capital in the market to call his own shot if things continue to not improve. Does he make it through this season? Do you have changes in the front office? Do you finally turn your roster over? And then if things continue to still not work, then is that when patience wears thin? That would be my question for Philadelphia. David, speaking of silly season, what genius scheduled a presidential debate in Atlanta on the Copa America U.S. fixture in the same city? I would imagine, David, not a soccer fan. Someone inside CNN Center out at Techwood Because, God, could you imagine what it would be like if it was at the old CNN Center? Could you imagine what it would be like if you did something there right in that lobby of the old CNN Center configuration where you might have, in the studio space? Could you imagine if you had the old CNN Center right next, and they did the debate at State Farm, which is probably where they would do it. In the old days, and this is, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, when CNN Center was CNN Center, you'd probably have this debate next door at State Farm Arena with a Copa America match involving the United States, the next building over. We should be lucky and thankful that it is at the Techwood campus for CNN and not in the old office space. Because then it would have been a raucous debate atmosphere in something like at the World Congress Center and something that they would have constructed or something, at State Farm. It would have been absolute chaos. Not that it's not going to be chaos anyway, because there's going to be rolling road closures on Thursday. Because you have the USA and Panama at Mercedes-Benz the same day that you have the first presidential debate for 2024's election. Bad enough as it is, everybody getting downtown to see the Stars and Stripes take on Panama. Add on top of that a presidential debate, which is always a calm environment. So my guess is, David, someone who is not a soccer fan was the one who scheduled the debate the same night. And I think it's a 9 o'clock start. So literally as everyone is leaving Mercedes-Benz Stadium from the 6 o'clock start with the United States and Panama, you're trying to get out. And that's when you've got the Secret Service, you've got road closures, you've got rolling roadblocks. Welcome to Atlanta Thursday night. If you are trying to go north from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I would suggest you go either east or west and then go north. Absolute chaos. So as we are all leaving the building, you've got a debate going on. So go east and west before you go north. That would be my advice. Find a way to I-20, take I-20 out, then take 285 north to your destination. Because going through the connector ain't going to happen. That is not going to work. That is not going to work at all. So if you're going to the USA match, go out I-20, then go home. Because you ain't going through the heart of town. I feel like Keith Calland all of a sudden. Antiquated Atlanta traffic reference. And through all of those years, we now still have some of his own thoughts still in our vocabulary when it comes to traffic. But you go into the match, don't go the connector home. Unless you're going south. If you got to go north, I-20 and up. And Tom, that's what I end up doing because, like I said, I don't know if I've got parking. I don't know if I want parking in this case, but who knows? But for the first matchup for Argentina, I took Marta in. Because you know that everybody was in downtown Atlanta that were fans of both of these teams. Shoot. Took Marta in, no problems. Took Marta out, no problems. But yes, if you're taking Marta, go out east-west. If you're traveling, hit I-20, then go north. Good Christ, that's going to be a mess on Thursday. So, fun. Yay. Congratulations. All right. So, like I said, when we know more involving the transfer of Thiago Almada and the interest of Eagle Football Group therein, that's where we are. Yesterday and last night specifically, since we're in Major League Soccer, there's another story that I wanted to get into. Last night in Charlotte, once again, an owner got what he wanted. And it has to do with the Carolina Panthers and David Tepper and a big windfall, a big financial windfall. He has wanted to renovate Bank of America Stadium. It's a 30-year-old facility. And you end up with a vote from the Charlotte City Council last night. 7-3. 7-3. Charlotte City Council approved giving $650 million toward renovations of Bank of America Stadium. 3-hour discussion. And according to Mary Calkins, who covered the story at WBTV, BTV TV, CBS 3 in Charlotte, some folks hesitant on entering a deal with David Tepper. The hesitance led to a failed motion that called for another vote on the project once city manager Marcus Jones drafts the contracts with TSE. So basically, 7-3 to approve the $650 million. But once the contracts are drawn up, we're going to have another vote. Some council members worry of striking a deal with the same guy who pulled the plug on the Rock Hill project, which would have moved the Panthers HQ to South Carolina. Remember that. Tepper wanted to have a space on the other side of the state line in Rock Hill. And then because of disagreements with Rock Hill, he just basically stopped. He just said, I'm done. And literally there had been some breaking of ground and there had been some basic construction, but Tepper was like, nah, fam, I'm out. Councilwoman Dimple Ajmera, you're dealing with a partner who sadly has a long history of not following through on his commitments. Others against funding for the project argued the vote happened before enough time was allowed for public or council input. Some said the renovations are simply too big of an asset to Uptown and Charlotte's economy to walk away from. Tariq Bokhari said we're going to see an explosion of economic impact in Uptown. Joe Bost of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance said there is, quote, broad support from the business community, end quote. Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles said that the project approval shows what Charlotte is all about. David Tepper, about 10 o'clock last night, came out with his own 2-paragraph statement. Today's vote by the Charlotte City Council is the culmination of many thoughtful discussions with city officials, local leaders, and our fans to create a shared vision for Bank of America Stadium. Nicole and I are grateful for the collaboration and support of the project, as well as our ongoing partnership between TSE and the city. For nearly 30 years, Charlotte has been the home for the Panthers and more recently Charlotte FC. Proud to be in the Carolinas. Look forward to delivering a venue meets the needs of our community, players, and fans for years to come, end quote. So that was what David Tepper said once the vote happened. City manager is now going to work with TSE to negotiate the contract and terms. Design team will work during the next year. Construction should be complete by the opening of the 29 season. 4 years. 4 years to get that done. It's an $800 million idea. $800 million idea. Tepper said, I'll put up $150 million of mine. But I need $650 million from the city. Alex Zietlow and Mary Ramsey over at the Charlotte Observer, they had their stories as well. Ashley Mahoney has been staring at all of this as well. And Ashley has been a part of the inner workings of the media there in Charlotte for quite some time, and now she's over at Axios. And that she has, because remember, she was part of the Queen City Football Chronicle as Charlotte was building everything that was there for them. And so now you end up with an $800 million investment. David Tepper and TSE says, yeah, we'll put in $150 if you put in the $650. And now that would lock in Charlotte, whether it's the Panthers or Charlotte FC, for 20 years. 20 more years after the fact. The hope is that they would get more larger scale events, drafts, Final Fours, those kinds of things. But a Final Four, unless you sit there and say that it's going to be in this venue that is not going to have a roof, you're not getting a Final Four. Unless you sit there and treat it like it's a WrestleMania and you put the curtain up there, you put the pseudo roof over the ring like they've done in those kinds of elements. You're not going to get a Final Four in March in an open air arena. So that's just not going to happen. I mean, you could have warm-ups at Spectrum Center down at the other end of downtown, but you're not going to get a Final Four. You might be getting more soccer matches. You might be getting those kinds of events. And I know that the ultimate play would be to try to bring in the Roman numeral Classic in a renovated building, but those events are plotted years and years down the line. Former Panthers running back Jonathan Stewart also made an attempt last night. He appeared to persuade the council to vote yes, saying it's an investment in the city's future economy and residents. It signifies our dedication to growth process. The three that voted against it were Ajmera, Tijuana Brown, and Renee Perkins Johnson. Brown, referencing when David Tepper threw a drink on a fan. It sounds real good until we get Mr. Tepper angry again. And then, he might throw something at city council. Ajmera said she didn't have a copy of the contract or economic impact report. Expected to cast my vote on the largest investment of public funds in Charlotte history without all the facts before me. City is setting a timeline to discuss additional funds or a new stadium and what it would be. The $650 million would come from the 1% sales tax that's added for entertainment in that district, entertainment in downtown. That extra 1% would be rolled over to hopefully get to that $650 million that the city is having to foot the bill for this $800. Plan is to start negotiating in 2037 for a replacement facility and have a replacement built by 2046. So you want to invest $800 million, $650 on your own dime in a building that you want to keep up and running until it's 50 years old. I don't know how realistic an expectation that is, where the renovations themselves would be 17 years into phase 2 of Bank of America Stadium, where you would have a replacement facility in 2046. So if it's ready by 29, with all of the shiny new stuff that you've invested $800 million in, 650 of it not even out of your own pocket, that's done by 29. 8 years later, the plan is to start negotiating for a new building, have it built by 2046. One of the oldest stadia in the National Football League. The idea is to improve seating, locker rooms, restrooms, sound equipment, a new patio on the 500 level, modernized boards, and an elevated, in quotation marks, facade. Once again, plans do not include a dome or a retractable roof. None of that. None. Zero. None. And you want to attract events to your venue. I heard Final Four being mentioned, and I was like, that's not happening without a roof. That's not going to happen until 2046 at the earliest. So if Charlotte has any aspiration to a Final Four that would be in that B of A space, it's not going to happen until 2046 under their current timeline. Of the contractors hired using city funds, 27%, basically 2 out of 7, or 3 out of 11. Let's put it that way. Minority or women-owned businesses. TSE expects to have invested $688 million into the facility between 2018 and 2045. So if TSE, Tepper Sports and Entertainment, believes that they're investing $150 million in this current renovation, then 16 years following that, they're going to allegedly invest, by their own numbers, of $500 million in the facility. 150 plus whatever they've invested previously. Upwards of $688 million by the time that the new stadium is unveiled, the new stadium. B of A 2.0, not the renovated side. So Tepper claims that they will have invested $688 million between 2018 and 2045. 20% of that being in this new stage that they hope to have ready by 2029. Debate over the stadium renovations opened up a conversation about what revenue from the extra tax on hotels and restaurants should be used for in general. State law currently limits the funds to tourism-related spending, but some opponents believe that should encompass parks or transit. And so literally this sets up another vote in the fall related to the financing. So 7-3 was the vote by the Charlotte City Council to sit there and go, yeah, okay, we'll do it. We'll throw $650 million in the pot. You do 150. What is David Tepper's net worth? If I could sit there and type it, net worth. David Tepper's net worth for all of his businesses, $20.6 billion, number 94 in the world, 94th richest man in the world, with a real-time net worth of $20.6 billion, according to Forbes. President and founder of Appaloosa Management. And this is how Forbes describes David Tepper. Arguably the greatest hedge fund manager of his generation. Tepper's been returning client assets over the last decade. Appaloosa Management's $15 billion under his management, now primarily his own personal capital. Relocated his hedge firm to Florida in 2016. Once the head of the junk bond desk at Goldman Sachs, left after being passed over for partner to start Appaloosa. And you look at he's number 35 on the Forbes 400, number 94 in billionaires. Self-made score of an 8 and a philanthropy score of a 2. MBA, the David Tepper School of Business, B of A from the University of Pittsburgh. David Tepper, quote, I am the animal at the head of the pack. I generally am. I either get eaten or I get the good grass. That is the kind of individual that is what the city of Charlotte is negotiating with. And you can look on his Wikipedia page, and there are other elements of his how do we phrase this? Personality and his MO. I would, and it'll stand out to you. So go to the Wikipedias involving David Tepper, and you will also learn the kind of individual he is when it comes to his business aspects and his business acumen. Let's just say that there's something in his office that raises eyebrows and interest. Forbes gives him a score of a 2 when it comes to all of his philanthropy, giving away 1 to 4.99% of his wealth. Oprah Winfrey, Jack Dorsey. He's in that realm of a 2. And the Forbes 400, 120 of the Forbes 400 got 2 for their philanthropy scores on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 to 5% of their wealth is headed toward philanthropy. Robert Kraft is in Section 3, 5 to 10% of his wealth. Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, 10 to 20%, 20% or more of their wealth. Warren Buffett, John Arnold, Eli Broad, Amos Hofstadter, George Kaiser, Ted Turner, those folks. But the index from Forbes, 1 to 5% of his wealth in his philanthropy index, the philanthropy score for David Tepper was a 2, according to Forbes. Self-made score, 8. Got pissed off, went out, did his own thing, started Appaloosa, and even in the time that we have had over the last 5 years, his wealth history from 2020, his net worth was $12 billion. It is increased every year since then to $20.6 billion as of this morning. But he did not get to where he is today without being a shrewd businessman. So right now, that's where the city of Charlotte is. They voted 7-3 to approve the $650 million, as Tepper puts in $150, toward the renovating of B of A Stadium. And then they'll start thinking about building a new barn in 2036 or 2039 or whatever. So that's where they are in Charlotte. So David Tepper, stage 1 of getting his wish granted, got granted last night by the Charlotte City Council. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. Let's see. NWSL yesterday had some really weird stuff happen. Started with Casey Stoney. KFC mentioning Steve Malik. And that's what got me to the NWSL next. Yesterday, Casey Stoney out. Casey Stoney gone as the head coach in San Diego. It was crazy to see that happen. Paul Buckle serving as interim head coach. And if that name's familiar, he is part of the Paul Buckle, Rebecca Lowe family in California. Yes, that Rebecca Lowe. Paul Buckle is going to be interim head coach. Immensely grateful to Casey for her commitment to the club, positive impact she's had both on and off the pitch over the past seasons. This is Jill Ellis. Casey's guided us over significant milestones. Contributions have been instrumental in laying a strong foundation on which to build. Decision to part ways was very hard, not made in haste. Given the ambition of this club and where we are in our season, felt a change was necessary at this time. Casey Stoney's out after signing a long-term contract extension in January. Coach of the Year in 22, Shield in 23, winless in 7, 9th place right now. And don't think for a half a second that you had about 19 folks in women's soccer dialing up Casey Stoney or her agent to sit there and go, hey, do you want to come and coach here? Coach of the Year Award 22, guiding them to the playoffs. First ever for an expansion franchise. Best record in the league during the regular season, lost in the semis. That contract extension was to 27, mutual option on 28. 1 point outside the playoff line. Winless in their last 7. Last victory was May 8th. Fixture congestion combined with the travel and the heat wave. Stoney addressed that after the last match. Quote, I think it's extremely unfair on players. I think for player welfare to ask us to go to Washington away, Gotham away, and then come to Houston in June, 2 days after we played the previous game. It's unacceptable. Scheduling-wise, it shouldn't happen. Camille Ashton, remember, was just appointed as the Waves' new GM and sporting director after leaving the GM role in Kansas City in May. And so now Ashton and Jill Ellis get to chase after a new head coach. Paul Buckle, who was an assistant in 22, is going to serve as the interim. 12 goals in 14 matches this year. Alex Morgan's missed time with an ankle injury, hasn't scored in 8. And so you had that happening in San Diego yesterday. Folks are thinking maybe she just goes back to Chelsea. Takes over. So Emma Hayes comes to the U.S. Casey Stoney goes back to takes over Chelsea. The other news yesterday was Lucy Rushton leaving Bay, resigned from her role as the club's general manager. Technical director Matt Potter serving as head of football and interim sporting director. Stepped down as GM halfway through the first season. And Marissa and Jimmy was the one that was tasked with trying to tell that story yesterday out in the San Francisco Chronicle. The official word is a resignation. So suffice to say, folks like Jeff Kassouf, they had very busy days yesterday. Hired as the GM in June of 23 ahead of their inaugural season. Led in the coaching search that resulted in the hiring of Albertine Montoya. Oversaw the build-out of their international heavy roster, including the world record transfer fee for Zambian forward Rachel Kundananji. 735,000 euro transfer fee with a possible 75,000 add-on. Inconsistent in their inaugural season. Well, I mean, they're an expansion club. You would anticipate something like that. With all of the talent that's there, Kundananji, Asisat Ashuola, and Venezuelan playmaker Dana Castellanos. 11th in a 14-team league, level on points with Angel City and San Diego. So San Diego announces that Casey Stoney and the Wave have parted ways. Bay FC was like, well, hold our front office beer. Remember, for those of you that might remember, Lucy Rushton was with Atlanta, with United, then went to DC United. Became GM of DC in April of 21. Remained in the role until October of 22. Analytical, according to Jeff Kassouf, Rushton, known for her analytical database approach to decision-making, utilized that approach to scout and sign players as well as hire Montoya. Lucy admitted to ESPN that she lives on Excel. Montoya, youth game to college, the professional ranks in the Bay Area, so he was a known quantity in the Bay Area. Previously coached some of Bay FC's founders, was an assistant coach at Stanford and Santa Clara. Montoya was initially a consultant for Bay FC's coaching search, but Rushton realized that his coaching profile, through her spreadsheets, matched her search criteria. They're 5-9, 25 goals conceded in 14, third worst in the league. And Montoya speaks frequently, according to Kassouf, of his desire to play attacking soccer. And after their 1-0 win over Angel City, joked that he loves high-scoring games. So 2 wild moves yesterday in the NWSL. And there you go. So that's the intrigue of the NWSL. Yesterday, and Tom mentioned this earlier in the show, yesterday, somehow, don't know how, I mean, we do know how, it was a late goal. But in the Euros yesterday, Italy survives. Italy survives and moves on in a match against Croatia where you initially thought that Luka Modric, after getting a penalty saved by Donnarumma, and then putting the ball in the back of the net, giving them a 1-0 lead and putting them ahead of the Italians in the table, you thought that everything was going to be locked in. Croatia was going to advance. Time to get out the number 2 Ticonderoga pencil. Not so fast, my friend. Today, you've got a doubleheader, Group C and Group D, to decide who moves on. But at 90 plus 10, you end up with the goal that makes it happen. 1-1 draw. Italy moves on. And Croatia has to wait. Right now, going through the groups that have gone through their match stages. Germany, and yet it was Calafiori redemption, Kefsey, no doubt about it. Germany advances, winning Group A. Switzerland is your number 2. Hungary has to wait. 3 points and -3 in goal difference. Scotland goes home. we're still waiting. And I've got some Steve Clarke stuff to talk about here in a sec. Because Steve Clarke, if his lack of offensive acumen wasn't the reason to let him go, what he said after the match, definitely the reason adds to it. And it's like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. We'll get into that. Group B, Spain won all three. They advance, no problem. Italy advances with the draw. 4 points. They're second. Croatia at 2 points and -3. They've got to wait. Albania goes home as the 4. And that's what happens when one of your key players decides to basically go on social media and say F 2 neighboring countries and do so with your ultras. So I think Albania deserved their own fate. I apologize to everyone for thinking that they had the wherewithal to get out of the group stage. Group C, like I said, Group C and Group D are today. Group C, England right now, 4 points, win and a draw. Denmark is second. And you've got to go down the list because Denmark and Slovenia tied in their record, tied in goals for, tied in goals against. Goal difference is the same. It might come down to yellow cards if this continues to work its way through, but you would anticipate some separation between those two. But right now, Denmark and Slovenia tied, but Denmark right now has the 2 slot. Slovenia has the 3. Serbia right now has 1 point in their 2 matches. Group D, Netherlands and France, they each have 4 points. So it's going to come down to today. Right now, goals scored is where Netherlands has the advantage over France. Austria, 3 points. They're lying in wait. Poland, no, not happening. I mean, they could win today, and then it would be Poland and France today. They'd have to beat France and then wait around. Right now, -3 in goal difference. They've given up 5 goals in 2 matches. So that's C and D. Just to let you know, Group E right now is a street fight. Romania, Belgium, Slovakia, Ukraine, all with 3 points. Romania's got more goals in goal difference. Slovakia has a better goal difference than Ukraine. So it's Romania, Belgium, Slovakia, Ukraine. That's tomorrow. All that chaos in Group E. Group F, Portugal, they've won their first 2. Turkey right now is in second. Czechia and Georgia are fighting. Georgia basically would have to beat Portugal, and then they would, have to hope that Turkey and Czechia kind of stumble over each other and figure out what's going on there. So not looking good for Georgia after improving in each match of the tournament, losing big early to Turkey and then tying Czechia back on the 22nd. So that's what you're staring at in the Euro for today. Getting into the juice boxes, just to let you know where things stand in the juice boxes for these matchups today. Staring at the France and Poland right now. France obviously a big favorite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. They're -417. Poland's basically a +1250 to win. Netherlands a +104 against Austria, who's a +313. Denmark a +140 going up against Serbia at a +231. England and Slovenia, England a -323. +438 to draw. Slovenia to win outright. Outright is the word I'm looking for. It's a +1050. Matchups tomorrow. Georgia's a big underdog. Czech Republic a slight favorite over Turkey. Belgium on the minus side going up against Ukraine. And Slovakia slight favorite, both the +2, both north of +200. Slovakia is a +225 to win. The draw is a preferred option at a +106. We do know one matchup, Switzerland and Italy, in the knockouts in 4 days' time. Italy favored over Switzerland at a +147. But like I said, we'll revisit those numbers tomorrow, and we'll see how things continue to grow. But yes, Italy shock of shocks at 90 +10. But you could see in the replay just how literally how Calafiore is just like, he's on the left-hand side. He's by himself. And it's like, I'm gonna do this by myself, man. All the space, well curled in shot, and it was wild to see all of those emotions. And if this is in fact the last day for Luka Modric, the last international tournament for Luka Modric, it's been a hell of a run. And when you have when you have all of these things going on that they're going on simultaneously, and you get to see something like that. The call, it's out there, and I think Fox Soccer posted it. The call of the game-winning goal in Italy, it's out there. I think, like I said, I think Fox Soccer is the one who has it posted to their 280-character app. And then listen to that, and you get to see I think it's a 25-second clip. You get to see the emotion that's attached to it, and go from there. Sorry, I'm trying to secure our interview with the Marshall Islands folks, literally, and see what's going on with them. So hopefully we get to find out more from our friends at the Marshall Islands from opening kickoff about when they get their stuff. Nacho apparently is leaving Real Madrid after 23 years, reportedly joining Alcacia, as we talked about yesterday. Barnabas Varga has a picture out with all of his with some of his teammates and his family. First picture after surgery and such. And so obviously you're really, really hoping, because that was a scary moment for Varga, and UEFA is still catching hell for how they did not respond. It was perceived they did not respond in a timely fashion, where you have the head coach of Hungary basically going, telling him to go, and they were just, I guess, waiting for the physicians to give them the okay to wander onto the pitch. But Dominik Szoboszlai and the head coach for Hungary, not fans of how UEFA responded. And we talked about that yesterday. Copa. Let's see. Let me see here. I think you. Once again, I'm trying to do this in live radio. I know this is not really working for live radio and TV. Okay. I think we're getting it figured out. All right. So yesterday in the Copa, and I reached out this morning. You know how I always try to have wardrobe that is something. Thank you, Calafiore and Zaccagni. Thank you, Kefsi. It was Zaccagni who got the finish. Calafiore's like, I'm going to do this myself. But, in the mornings when I always try to figure out what my wardrobe's going to be, I always try to sit there and, grab something that I think is just going to be cool. And, I try to make it soccer related as much as possible. And there are some mornings when it ends up being other things. And this morning I grabbed one of my Pele collection, and I realized that maybe I should have chosen a different country because of what happened last night in the Copa. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, it looks like Jessica Charman and her family actually went to Houston. We'll talk about that game in a bit for Colombia and Paraguay. But last night at SoFi in Los Angeles, you had Brazil taking on Costa Rica. Let me get the number. This is what happens when you hit a button on the mouse. Definitely a Monday. When you look at the numbers from last night, crazy strange, but not necessarily a surprise. And I looked at this when I started the show this morning, and I was like, should I have worn this T-shirt? Should I really have worn this T-shirt? I don't know. Considering I'm wearing a Pele T-shirt and Brazil got CONCACAF'd in a CONMEBOL tournament. Costa Rica had no interest. None. Zero. Less than zero. Costa Rica had less than zero interest of doing anything other than getting out of there. And especially as the game went along. Brazil was kind of like, well, we want to shoot, we want to shoot. And as it turned out, there was less interest in Costa Rica having any kind of offensive output whatsoever. They were like Marshawn Lynch and Kyle Busch. I'm just here so I don't get fined. So last night, here's the numbers from yesterday. Yeah, Costa Rica had no interest in doing anything offensive whatsoever. First off, Brazil was a minus 1250 in the juice boxes. Costa Rica to win was a plus 2,000. Your draw was a plus 1,100. So if you went draw last night, you're a genius. You're a genius. 74% possession for Brazil. Costa Rica was basically like, nah, we don't want it. 26% possession. Like they hoofed it. They went long. They didn't care. XG, 1.71 for Brazil. 0.03 for Costa Rica. And if they'd had a negative number in the second half, it would have been a negative number. They couldn't have given an ish if they were interested in taking a shot. 19 total shots to 2. And all of these will be Brazil leading in the categories. 4 saves on the night for Costa Rica and for Cicada. Cicada at times when he was called upon, fantastic work. Shocking no one, he had the highest grade for Costa Rica last night at a 7.7. Goals prevented, 0.97. 1 punch, 1 run out, 1 high claim, 2 saves from inside the box. 8 long balls, 2 clearances. But Patrick Cicada had a 7.7 last night. He was the highest rated player for Costa Rica. Other numbers. 26 tackles to 19 Brazil. Fouls 13-10. Yellow cards 2-1. Jarrett, I'm going over what happened last night in the Copa involving Brazil and Costa Rica. You hit it the right time.
That is insane. It was hilarious, but it was insane.
Yes.
Because, we discussed before that game, and I told Jason, I was like, I just want to see, the potential here for Brazil to be absolutely miserable.
Mm-hmm.
It was monumental. And then, man, Costa Rica obliged.
Yes. And they basically, I said they were kind of like Marshawn Lynch and Kyle Busch. They were there, so they just didn't get fined. And it was, I'm literally going through the numbers. 3/4 of the possession, 19-2 on shots, not in a good way. And 3 shots on target for Brazil of the 19. 3. Cicada had 4 saves, 1 off the post, 12 shots off target. Costa Rica blocked 2, 14
but
shots.
The best save he made was off of his teammate almost scoring.
Uh-huh. So you end up with Costa Rica just not interested. Here's one for you. Here's one that I didn't know until this morning when I was buzzing through. Touches inside the penalty area. What do you think the numbers are?
For Brazil,
touches in the penalty area.
I know. Give me a second to do math. 170.
I wish 50.
50, because they were living there. For Costa Rica, was it 4?
You're half right. 2. The 2 shots on target.
2.
50-2 touches in the penalty area last night.
That sounds about right.
Passes. 185 accurate passes for Costa Rica, 630 for Brazil. Final third phase, passing at 82% for Brazil, 33% passing in the final third, 12 of 36 for Costa Rica, 82 final third entries for Brazil, 30 for Costa Rica, 39 long balls to 15, 5 crosses to 1. Ground duels, 47 of the 84 to Brazil, 10 of the 17 to Brazil, 11 of the 19 on the dribble for Brazil. Those are both high 50s in percentages. Tackles 1, Brazil 69%, 47% for Costa Rica. 55 recoveries to 45. Clearances, 34 clearances by Costa Rican defense, 7 for Brazil. So that's what you had last night. Basically, Brazil got CONCACAF'd in a CONMEBOL tournament. I hope you're happy.
Costa Rica is not going to win that game straight up.
No.
At all.
No.
Man, they basically went in there like a number of CONCACAF teams have done before.
Mm-hmm.
We can't win this game, but we cannot lose it.
Correct. Yes. Correct. So that's what you got from Costa Rica. And anybody that is now saying that Costa Rica is now a favorite in this competition needs to just please go to your favorite 24-hour healthcare facility and please get your vital signs checked. That needs to stop now.
Yeah, man, like that was funny last night because it was kind of what I think some of us were hoping for, which was, and there's layers to this. Like there is the whole like Brazil is in, I won't say in crisis, but you have questions about Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you have like their first game against a team they should pummel, but a team that can make them miserable, and you got exactly what you wanted for entertainment's sake as a neutral.
Yeah. So, so Brazil, welcome to the tournament. And once again, it reminds us all that Brazil right now is not even your older brother's Brazil, and that they got a lot of work to do. And I don't see them winning this tournament that they are currently in, as they are currently constructed, because now the book is out. You can sit there, and I know that when you get to the knockouts, it's going to be different, but you can sit there and look what Costa Rica did to Brazil, and you've now got a model. You've now got a model, and
that's easier said than done, though, to replicate that.
I know, but still, I mean, it's it's still out there, and the book is out on you, Brazil. Not that it hasn't already, but that's what we're staring at when it comes to Brazil. First match of the day, Paraguay. They might have had as many folks on their game day roster as they did fans in the stands in Houston. And I imagine that the director in the truck, when Paraguay scored in the second half to make it 2-1, the chaos inside that production truck where the director is sitting there and the producer are going, "Find me Paraguay fans." And the cameramen are sitting there going, "We're trying, man." That was a full-blown House of Colombia yesterday.
It's one of my favorite conversations as a camera operator when with directors like screaming at you like, "Give me this, give me that." I'm like, I'm trying to. You're asking me sometimes to find things that don't exist. Like that's like going to someone and saying, "Go get just go outside in your backyard and find me the Fountain of Youth." Like no, it doesn't. This isn't. It doesn't work this way. Or tell me to go find a 4-leaf clover. Like where? You point me in the direction, brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that
little help,
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit, man.
Yes. For those that haven't had the chance to actually listen to what John Texter said this morning, here's in courtesy of Tommy Scoop. So he has transcribed the John Texter video from Thiago Franklin on YouTube. I haven't made the offer yet. I plan on sending the offer to them directly this morning. We have no idea what the terms of the deal might be. We're presenting it to them today. That's it. That's the truth. We love the player. We're doing this the right way. I have a good relationship with the leadership at Atlanta United. We wouldn't go in through the back door. We'll go in through the front door. I'll send the offer this morning and give their CEO a call. We hope to get it done, but that's up to Atlanta. So that's that is the transcript of the Thiago Franklin YouTube message that Alex so dutifully found that was posted at 8:29 this morning. But that is your quotes from John Texter at Eagle Football Group involving Thiago Almada. So
that's why we keep Alex on retainer when he's not getting kicked in the face in the outdoor league.
Correct. So that's where we are. Benfica's Rafa Silva set to join Besiktas on a 3-year deal. Varga is now stable in the hospital after fracturing his cheekbone. Rudiger's injury is problematic now for Germany's last 16 match at the Euros. And so that's the morning update on the transcription of the 8:29 video release this morning involving Thiago Almada and John Texter and Eagle Football Group. Today in the Copa, which almost sounds like a sounds like a game show. Jorge Fossati, the head coach of Peru. Jarrett, I think we're used to seeing quotes like this in hemispheric competitions, but I'm thinking that some folks may not be. Peru, they anticipate that Canada and Jesse Marsh, they will be somewhat aggressive stylistically. Fossati, in his press conference at the match day -1, the U.S. men's national team, by the way, they're set to practice at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground coming up in about 20 minutes. Maddie's up there, and she'll have reports. Fossati said, if we have to use our fists, then we'll use our fists. Canada used excessive force against Argentina. There was a thin line between strength and violence. If we have to use our fists, then we'll use our fists. We won't shy away, end quote. That was translated.
Okay.
But the Fossati laying down the law for this matchup with Canada.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, they're that's it. They're not going to back down. Canada's going to come in and get stuck in. And we'll see how everybody responds to it. We'll see how they respond to Canada's aggression. But then we're also going to see how Canada responds when the aggression is put back on them.
Yeah. Joshua Clokey from The Athletic had the somewhat response. Marsh, quote, I don't think anyone in the team will expect anything less but total commitment from the Peruvian side in a game that will be very physical. We want to still understand that, but stay true to what we're trying to develop and have discipline in the way we play so that we can find a way to gain an edge. So that's the response to the promo of Fossati by Jesse Marsh.
Well, this is where it's gonna be interesting for me in the Jesse Marsh experience, because we have the whole mindset of hey, it's Jesse Marsh. He coached at Red Bulls, multiple Red Bulls. This is.
Yes.
We know he can be physical. We know they can press, but Jesse Marsh, I think, can be more than that. So will he be able to be identified by people as more than that, which I think is fair, and I think that's what it should be. I think he should be recognized as potentially being more than that, because there are going to be games where he can't do this. He's going to have to do something different, and I think he has that capacity. That, for me, will be the big thing for them. We know the energy drink stuff. We know the physicality. We know all that. It's that next level for me that I care more about, because I know people, and I know especially MLS Digital loves to just absolutely, fall over themselves at the high press energy drink style, and yes. I know it's kind of falling out of favor a little bit because everybody's flavor of the week has now shifted to Nazi ball.
Yes.
I don't have the meme guide for what the next one will be. God only knows what it will be. But there is the answer of what comes when you can't do that. That's, I think, where Jesse Marsh can show something real.
Yeah. A lot of folks were trying to figure out what Marsh's starting 11 is going to be. After Netherlands-France friendlies and the Argentina match, the only change he made in the starting 11 was Crépeau for St. Clair. And I think that that's safe to say that without Max Crépeau, Canada would have been a lot worse off against Argentina than they were, because Max Crépeau bordered on the insane when it came to keeping Canada in that match.
He did. The score line should have been uglier, even though I thought Canada acquitted themselves pretty well.
Mm-hmm. So looking at all of the nebulous quotes from Jesse Marsh getting ready for this one, we have to get the most out of every experience that we have together and include as many players in the process as we possibly can, so we can identify exactly which players we need to continue to invest in for the future. Any change that we make would always be based on that balance, on evaluating the whole group, but addressing each moment we are in so that we give ourselves the best chance to be successful. Good Lord, that was word salady. Oof. That's about as word salady as you could get. Laying it all out there.
That tracks for him, though.
Yeah, it does.
Everything. He's going to phrase it in ways that are like, "Hey, everything is always an audition."
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, man, duh. Of
Yeah.
course it is. You're always seeing who's doing what, who's in form, who's out of form. Because tournaments are weird, man. Like, tournaments are, hey, that guy's hot, so we're going to ride the hot hand.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're Steve Clarke, in which case.
Oh, yeah, we haven't gotten into Steve Clarke yet. We'll after we finish up with Jesse Marsh, we'll get into Steve Clarke.
But yeah, I mean, Marsh is he's gonna figure out what's gonna work for each game. And again, this comes back to what I was saying. Like, for me, it's not a matter of that hard physical press. Like, that's part of it. But in games where teams don't want the ball, where teams you can't press and get stuck in with them and just beat them with grit. Personally, I think Marsh has more to his game than that.
Yeah.
And having a plan B, I think, is where he can separate himself for Canada. The question then becomes, how does the whole of Canada's roster execute that game? Because you got to have guys finish. I mean, we talked about it with Bart yesterday before I got called back to the real world. But
yes,
USA created a metric ton of chances, but you got to finish.
Mm-hmm.
You have to execute in those moments, and the coach cannot execute for you.
Right. And so you've got the early match is Peru and Canada at Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. That's at 6:00 tonight. And Canada is favored over Peru in the juice boxes at a plus 121. Draws a plus 220, and Peru's a plus 254. At the Meadowlands tonight, Argentina is a minus 213 hosting Chile, or with Chile. Who am I kidding? Argentina is the home team. Plus 319 on the draw. Chile is a plus 675. I'm anticipating Argentina. For those of you that play Copa America Fantasy, for you true degenerates, probably you should be taking the over in that matchup at the Meadowlands tonight. And so Canada favored, Argentina big favored, but Canada's favored on the plus side of things when it comes to the matchups tonight in the Copa. Thank you for remembering to remind me about the silliness that Steve Clarke said.
Steve Clarke's entire existence at the Euros is silliness, but carry on. I know where you're going with this because he was insensitive and
stupid.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right word. He's a prick.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. Steve Clarke, after some of the most inactive offensive. Yeah, you want to talk offensive output? This was offensive. And I mean offensive in the sense of not doing what you should be doing. Steve Clarke thought there should have been a penalty given when Willie Orban from Hungary. Okay, so the internet decided to dump. No, David, it was not you. It was the internet, and I don't know what happened because all of a sudden it was there and then it wasn't. All right, so let me get back to where we were. Steve Clarke, yeah. So Steve Clarke decided, and I'm guessing it was Steve Clarke that killed the internet here in the studio. So Steve Clarke decides. This is what he said, and literally, here's what he said, and this drove me nuts. So it's a 1-goal game. We get the penalty. Could be a different night. I've got other words, but I'm not going to use them. Then it's a European competition. It might have been better to have a European referee. The VAR was European. Maybe the referee didn't see the foul clearly on the pitch, but what's the point in VAR if they're not going to come in on something like that? It was a penalty. And then he was asked how he was supposed to have a conversation. It's like how he was allegedly going to be having the conversation about this, and literally slurred his way. And that's what it was. That's what it absolutely was. So he decides to sit there and say, well, if, I don't know if he spoke English or not. And I want to get the quote, so we've got to get it right. And I want to get this correct. Because Steve Clarke, it's frustrating. Yeah, the Steve Clarke decided to sabotage the internet here in the studio.
Yeah, I blame Scotland.
Yes. So basically, Steve Clarke decided to slur his way through the conversation and wondered aloud that did the center ref in fact speak English, and what good would it have done if he did not?
First of all, I desperately wanted it to be a penalty. I thought there was grounds for a penalty there. I thought it's one of those, though, that whatever you call in the field, you're not going to overturn because it's a judgment call. I wanted it to be a penalty, but it wasn't. Whatever. Also, the official in question, I believe, is multilingual.
Facundo Teo, from Facundo Teo from Argentina.
Yeah, I believe he speaks English, Spanish, and maybe Portuguese as well. Steve Clarke just being an insensitive, ignorant prick in that moment.
Yep.
I understand he's upset. He really should be staring in the mirror with his upsetness. But I understand he's upset, but you can't let that boil over, and it doesn't ever give you or anyone else an excuse to be an insensitive prick about things and to start making rash judgments because, the referee's from Argentina, so I'm sorry, have you watched an Argentine game?
Yeah.
Have you watched a game on this continent? I'm assuming no, because otherwise you wouldn't have left Lewis Morgan sitting on the bench for 2 or 3/4 games until the 90th minute.
Yeah.
When you just started throwing attacking players on the field, abandoned all tactics, trying to make something magical happen instead of actually setting your team up to attack consistently. I'm assuming you may not also watch games outside of the Old Firm in Scotland. Otherwise, you'd realize that Lauren Shanklin was the best attacking player and the best striker in Scotland this year. And I get he didn't play for the Old Firm, but as I discussed with a friend of mine, a friend of ours, there are Scottish players outside of Glasgow. Shanklin is one of them. He's 27, 28 years old. He's produced everywhere he's been. And I get he hasn't produced at huge places, like produced at Ayr. Great. Went to Buchot in Belgium, and I think he put up like 6 goals in 20 games there. Not perfect, but, they got relegated. He ended up going back to Scotland, goes to Hearts, puts up, I think, 27 goals this season. But, yeah, let's start. You don't have Lyndon Dykes, the QPR's monolithic striker, who is kind of the central piece of what you need. You started Shea Adams, who didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Shea Adams just kind of sat up there being separated from everybody. you got more danger out of Shankland in the last 10 minutes than you did out of Shea Adams the entire time. But forgive me, because Shea Adams plays for a championship team in second division England, so obviously he's better and everybody knows better. So you have to play that guy. You can't play the guy who put up a bunch of goals playing in Scotland. Oh, well, we don't respect it unless they play for the old firm, apparently. But if they move on, then we can magically respect them. Looking at you, John McGinn. Played at Hibs and then, went to England and found success. All of the decisions you made were very, very weird and annoying, and your frustration pointed at the Argentine official, as completely ignorant as it is.
Mm-hmm.
The frustration I understand. Where you're directing it, I do not understand, because it's directed solely with you. Scotland is a team that has traditionally played more of a defensive style, and they sit deeper. They pick their chances to get forward. When they get forward, and they're committed to it. Now, I know this because I watched them get through qualifying and win their group, including beating Spain, including going to Spain, and while playing defensive against Spain, like holding serve against Spain until like the 70th minute in that game, including a goal for Scotland that would have given them the lead in like the 75th minute. They got called back under dubious circumstances. Not to say that not dubious in the sense that the ref was like Chayton Paul, but
Right.
like it was kind of a judgment call that got overturned and kind of felt like overstepping. But you've shown in the past that you can be that team if you're Scotland. And then you went to the Euros themselves, and you just didn't. You were just cowardly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst part of it all. You've shown you can be more, and you weren't. Now you've got Nations League games coming up, and it's the summer. If there's any time to go, and David Moyes is the easy, obvious name. Even if you don't do that, if there's ever a time to go do something, now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, you're in Nation League A. Because you got promoted, because under Clarke you were playing well in Nations League B, and you got promoted. And in fact, you took England's spot, which is hilarious, objectively funny. But where did all that go? Because for 270 minutes, just didn't look like the same team. So be upset, but aim that ray gun back at yourself there, Stevie.
Yeah. What's the point? He's from Argentina. Why is it not a European referee? I don't understand why he's here and not in his own country refereeing a game. It's just my opinion. You need to stop talking.
Adding "it's just my opinion" on the end is like starting a sentence with no offense.
Mm-hmm.
Or with all due respect, which means the next thing coming out of your mouth is going to be something that people take extreme offense to.
Yeah, will not have any respect attached.
It'd have been funnier if it was a Scottish ref who didn't give him the pen. Couldn't do shit at that point.
Yes.
Look, you're relying on a 50-50 decision for a PK to try and send you through in a game where you didn't get a shot on goal until like the 80-something minute, I think.
Yeah.
You're just bad. It's kind of like, it kind of felt like last night at the end of the Stanley Cup Finals Game 7, where like, I like the part where Edmonton dumped the puck in the end, and then the last 15 seconds were just the puck getting held up in the corner. Of like, I should have skated in. I'm like, why? You could have given him 5 more minutes for the extra man. Edmonton wasn't scoring.
No.
You could have given Scotland another 90 minutes. They weren't scoring.
No.
Some of the way that guys were set up to operate, and it was just, like, it was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just tragic, and the comments were completely unnecessary from Steve Clarke. If he should be angry at anyone, it should be himself. Maybe his players, if they weren't executing what he asked them to do, but the great disappointment is that wasn't the team that qualified.
Yeah.
In terms of the way they performed and the way they went about their business. And I tell you what, man, the fans of Scotland deserved a better team than what they got for 270 minutes at the Euros this year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of 4 shots on target in 3 Euro matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Period.
That's unacceptable. There are teams with less talent there that put on more brave showings and more productive showings than Scotland did. Scotland's 2 goals in that tournament came off of an own goal and then a deflected shot that was an own goal until it was correctly corrected to a goal, which was fine. Like, yeah, McTominay's goal was great because McTominay got in the box. You shoot because good things happen when you shoot the ball. But otherwise, no, man, it was just, there were teams with less talent than you who put on braver showings. And after what you did to get there, and Scotland came into this incredibly out of form, don't get me wrong. After what you did to get there, to show like that was just immensely disappointing from a manager who, as I said before, John, is kind of the Mike Woodson for me.
Yeah.
Of Scotland. Like, Mike Woodson was the head coach when Atlanta came out of the forest. Like, the Hawks came out of the woods. Mid odds. Has the series with the Celtics where you go 7 inexplicably in 2007, 2008 season. But he was never the guy to take them over the hill. Larry Drew also was the guy to make them better, but was never the guy to take them over the hump. I don't think Steve Clarke can get Scotland over the hump, especially now. And I have even bigger issues with his play. I have even bigger issues with his comments and his insensitivity towards the referee's nationality, because he's lashing out because he's angry, and he's angry at the wrong people because he's not looking in the mirror. But I don't think he's the guy to get you over the hump. I think he is your Larry Drew, Mike Woodson. Got you out of the woods. You made 2 straight Euros. Great. Expect more than that now. You should be expecting more. You should be expecting with the quality of player you have in that group. You have John McGinn. You have Scott McTominay still. You have Billy Gilmore, who's an outstanding midfielder. Lawrence Shanklin will score goals and was actually making dangerous runs late in that game. Lewis Morgan is scoring at will in the United States. Angus Gunn is there. And, like, after the first game, wasn't getting peppered. The 2 goals you give up after that, you give up a goal against the Swiss that's just a horrendous giveaway at the back. And then it's Shaqiri, like, finishing like he's never finished in MLS. He saved all that for the national team. And then, you give up that goal against Hungary at the end where tactics are out the window and you're just stretched end to end, and it's a really good cutback. You have, in an expanded World Cup, you have the talent, I think, to push to make a World Cup. But I don't think Steve Clarke is going to get you there. I think this is where your limit is with Steve Clarke, and that's not good enough. So it should be higher Scotland. Expect more, demand more.
17 shots, 3 matches. Since the Euros group stage was introduced in 1980, the joint fewest by a nation, matching Northern Ireland's total in 2016. Combined XG across the finals, 0.91. And Alan Shearer said, I don't think it was for a lack of effort, pointed at the injury woes and a limited pool of attacking players.
He left most of his attacking players on the bench, brother.
Points echoed by David Moyes, who was watching alongside Shearer and Rachel Corsie.
Rachel Corsie was legit on the desk too. Like, Rachel Corsie jumped on that desk, and like Rachel Corsie just, like, in the segments I heard that were like shared.
Yeah.
Can we replace Charlie Lloyd with Rachel Corsie?
Let's see. 17 goals, 8 qualifiers to reach Germany. Moyes, when asked about it, we were thrilled when we qualified. Steve did a good job getting us here and took us to the last couple of minutes against Hungary. There's no shame in it, but we don't have top players to make a difference. But they made the difference during qualifying.
Well, you still got performances from McGinn and McTominay, and so much of what you do is, play the ball up to Lyndon Dykes, hold up play, let you get guys in. Also, you left James Forrest to rot on the bench. You took 31-year-old James Forrest, who is a Celtic lifer and who has played in Champions League matches, who has, like, I think he was in the 18 when they beat Barcelona in 13. I can't remember if he started that game. But point being, I think Mohamed Bangura did. But you had him on the bench as well, a guy who has played in critical, tight, high-level fixtures, who can be a 1v1 attacker. Like, you left these attacking guys on the bench. I'm sorry you lost Kieran Tierney to injury. Get in line. That's like losing Mike Hampton to injury. That's like, Kieran Tierney is going to be like Scottish Tracy McGrady. We're never going to really know how good he could have been.
Yep. Let's see. So once again, you've got 2 matches at noon, 2 matches at 3. It's Group C and D today. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Manchester United expected to meet the €40 million release clause for Joshua Zirkzee at Bologna. Have had talks with Lille over a deal on defender Lenny Yoro. Still hoping to fund the signing of Zirkzee by selling Mason Greenwood. Everton expect Manchester United to make another bid for Jarrett Branthwaite. Also close to agreeing to a deal to sign 24-year-old Senegalese forward Iliman Ndiaye from Marseille. Manchester United hope a new contract is ready for Erik ten Hag before the start of the preseason tour here in the U.S. Manchester United's former striker Ruud van Nistelrooy has held positive talks about returning to the club as a part of the staff. Joselu's close to leaving Real Madrid after getting an offer from Al Harafa. Chelsea have opened talks with Barca over a deal over 18-year-old Spanish forward Marguyu. Chelsea lead Bayern in the race to sign him. And Jarrett had to go and be with the go be with the real world. Tomorrow, once again, it'll be Tyler dropping by at 9:15. The U.S. men's national team practicing at this time today and tomorrow at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Maddie is up there catching up with them. Hopefully we can catch up with her over the next couple days and find out what's going on with that. The friendlies are being announced. Looks like the U.S. men's national team has a friendly at Q2 in October. That one will be televised as we go. I think that's going to be on the WBD system, the Warner Brothers Discovery Network. So it'll be on like True and Max and all those other networks that they're attached to. But that release came out and adjusted the little bit. And let's see, did that. All right. So once again, tomorrow, 9:15, Tyler Pilgrim jumps in. Hopefully we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast. We're the busiest folks in the Southeast. Dylan Butler, he can join us at 10 o'clock, hopefully, to discuss what's going on in Major League Soccer. But he is a dad who is in the summer. So it depends on if folks are at summer camp or if he's got to kind of hang out and see what's going on. But we got other stuff to talk about. We got Euros to talk about. We got all these kinds of things to get into tomorrow. And we'll get you ready as we get closer and closer and closer to what's going on with the men's national team. Remember, tomorrow night on the network, it is the Twos in Orlando City B. Pre-game show a little before 7, and the matchup at 7:03. Then on Sunday, it is the Twos and Messi and Friends 2. That is a 6 o'clock kick, so a 6:03 kick pre-game show at 5:45. And we'll have those on the network on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. So, this is what happens when you want to rant about Steve Clarke, then the internet craps out. I blame Scotland. So you can catch the compressed rerun on the app. Go to Spreaker, download the Spreaker app. It's like speaker with an R in the middle. And then search for Soccer Down Here, set your notifications for when we have segments and when everybody else can pop up. And you get all the individual segments with all of our great guests in addition to the shows in their entirety. Safe travels for everybody who is coming back from St. Louis after having watched the Braves and having watched Atlanta United. We'll get you ready for the matchups coming up on the weekend with Toronto, and that is going to be on Saturday night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Which Toronto team do we get? The one that hasn't won in their last 5, or the one that was in a shootout 4-3 with Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago? We'll find out coming up in short order. But thanks to Jarrett for dropping by. I blame the loss of the internet on Scotland, and you can catch the show in its entirety coming up here in short order. For everybody here at SDH, the SDH Network, thanks for dropping by. That's Tuesday Thoughts, Wall Pass Wednesdays tomorrow. So remember, whatever else is on your mind, bring it to the table. We'll talk about the week that was in Major League Soccer tomorrow as well. and get you ready for the weekend that will be. Since this is the end of the show, I guess I got to whistle now and get you ready for the close. So here is the closing billboard back in a little less than 22. Damn the internet.